I'm Jim Dooley, and I am the composer of Epic Mickey. I started playing guitar when I was 7. You want to go back that far? No, and essentially, guitar, piano, all these kind of things that kids play to get into bands so that you can meet girls, and then you stop playing because you need to make a living. But I went to NYU for my undergrad and then USC for my graduate studies, studying with like Elmer Bernstein, Christopher Young, Buddy Baker, who did the orchestrations for the actual It's a Small World, the ride, and also doing Fox and the Hound. Just David Raxon, who worked with Charlie Chaplin, having these great teachers in LA, and then I've been working with Hans Zimmer for the last 11 years out of his studio, and up until recently been doing TV, video, and film. I'll tell you, there's nothing like when you've written something and then you get in front of an orchestra and then they play it back and it's better than you imagined it could be. Probably when I was doing Pushing Daisies, like every week of recording and conducting that score was probably one of the most magical experiences of my life. It's nothing like it weekly. It's like knowing that everything you write is going to be played by a top-notch orchestra. It doesn't really get better than that. Of course there is. It's like the violin. I don't know how people play that and not make it sound like death. It's like how you make it sound great is beyond me. It's weird. Like as a guitar player, it's a different tuning. It's like the strings are not tuned in fifths like they are on a guitar. It's in fourths, and so it never made any sense to me when I'm trying to figure out how the fingerings go. So it's always kind of a problem. It's like I could play almost everything else at a very mediocre level. It was interesting, actually. I was doing a lot of film and TV work at the time, and as video games really started coming into their own, especially financially, they started poaching from the film and TV guys because you're like, we want this epic Hollywood sound. Like, well, who's doing it? It's like, well, these are the people who are doing it. So essentially, that's how I first got into doing the SOCOM series for Sony. It was my first foray into doing video games. And that one was recorded in London at Air Lyndhurst with a 100-piece orchestra. So I was like, okay, I think I can do video games for a long time now. It's funny. There's so much talent out there now that it's pretty amazing when you listen to really what people have done. It's like, I'm a big fan of Gary Scheinman's work. The BioShock music that he's done has been great. Dante's Peak. He's really got a great and unusual voice for that stuff. I also really like Jesper Kids, Assassin's Creed and stuff that he's done. I'm a big fan of his work as well. Absolutely, Arcade Fire is my favorite new band. I know they're not new, but them and LCD Sound System are my favorite. But of contemporary stuff that's out there. But I'm secretly an 80s music fan. It's like, so if I have a go-to station in my car, it's like all 80s all the time. Because I think the greatest song of all time is Take On Me by a-ha. There's nothing better than that song. I'm telling you, there's nothing. You hear that song and you are happy. I got into film music essentially because of watching Danny Elfman's first score to Batman in high school and going like, it was a short film a friend of mine did, and he rolled a cue ball down the hall really fast in front of these weird angle cameras, and then edited it together quickly and put the Batman score on. I'm like, the cue ball was never so interesting as watching it roll down the hall to Danny's music. I'm like, what is this? It's like, oh, it's Danny Elfman. I'm like, well, I don't know who he is. So I got that, and then Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'm like, oh wow, this is. I already knew what film music was because it's like I was musical, but. Everybody know John Williams and stuff. To really get into it, it's like because it was just different, and it was more from a rock background, which is the background that I have. It's like I used to play heavy metal guitar, and then teach it. And I was teaching that stuff at summer camps for years. So how does a rocker get into this? And then meeting Hans Zimmer, it's like he also comes from a rock background, and even though I had my classical studies. It's like I'm very influenced by the rock and pop people and how they come to approach film scores. Disney Epic Mickey was one of the greatest challenges I've had in my scoring career. Step one was, okay, I need to do a lot of research. So the best part of it really was, I mean, yes, working with Warren and everybody was fantastic, but childhood dreams that you getting access to the film scores, actually the sheet music, is almost impossible. It's not published. It's all in archives, and you have to have a pretty good reason to get in there to get this stuff or get even copies of it, get to look at it at all. So it was very kind that the Disney Archives provided me with a copy of the 1939 score to Pinocchio and the 61 complete manuscripts to Mary Poppins. So I have even the rehearsal piano parts, like Julie, it says like vocals by Julie Andrew at the top, because it was her first movie, she didn't have anything. So like, okay, whoever the rehearsal pianist was, it's like, okay, you're playing for, oh, it's Julie Andrews today, okay, Ray, here we go. So that was the beginning of this, because it's a huge legacy to honor, 80 years, you know, of Disney music. It's like, how do you do it and not screw it up? So I didn't want to be the guy who screwed it up. So beginning there, and then I did Ariel's beginning for Disney, and so I researched through Alan Menken's music from the first one before. So I'm used to doing the research part to make sure that the Disney legacy is honored. Especially since I have friends who worked on the park and the attractions, and today on the Disney movies. So it's like that was the beginning, and that's probably what was one of the greatest challenges. You'll find in the game I had to do an orchestration and arrangement if it's a small world, and that's a tough one because like there's nothing like if you go on the ride, it takes you about a week to get that tune out of your head. So can you imagine working on it all day long for many days? And for that, it was a huge challenge, and to do a dark version of that for the game, what a great opportunity. Essentially, what made the game the most significant challenge is the music has to be dynamic, because as Warren says, it's like gameplay matters. So if you create in the world, it's like the music actually adapts and starts bringing in elements that are more positive as you create with paint. As you destroy and start taking away with thinner, well, it's like the music then brings in layers that are not as positive, a little darker, a little meaner. And so all the gameplay as you go through has this dynamic music in it that can fluctuate with how you play. And that in and of itself, if you think about it, is very difficult to have music change that dynamically. Actually, I'm just starting on a new TV show for FX, which is called Wilfred, with Elijah Wood, which is a really great story. This dog is called Wilfred, and everybody thinks he's a dog, but he is a dog, okay, except for Elijah Wood, who sees him as a guy in a dog suit that he can talk to. So everybody else is treating the dog like a dog except for Elijah, and it's a really great comedy that'll be on, I think we're airing sometime in the late spring, early summer of this year. But just starting to get started on that new TV show right now. Really care about what you do. It's like, it's one thing to do with people that people ask you to do, but here's the good news. There's so much music in the world that people can tell when it's crap. So you have to really love it, because people know when you're putting them on and you're not being sincere. To make your choices count, because people know the difference. And I think that more than anything, that really caring about what you do, and caring about how you do it. Stand from a perspective and say something that you want to say, not what you think people want to hear from you.